There is an old cliche I hear almost everybody use. Politics is downstream of culture. Of course, this famous quote comes from the legendary Andrew Breitbart, and a lot of people in the conservative commentary world and the intelligentsia have co-opted it to basically sell the importance of the culture wars. And while I believe the culture wars are most certainly important, they aren't important for that reason. See, the idea that politics is downstream of culture is not only overused and oversaid, it actually conceals a truth about how culture works that people miss by virtue of adopting that phrase. Politics is not downstream of just any culture. Politics is downstream of a strong culture. When a culture is not strong, then the inverse is true. Politics is no longer downstream of culture. Culture becomes manipulated and controlled by politics. And it is for that reason why in this video, we're going to examine the ways that pop culture infects our own culture and renders it more susceptible to political manipulation and control from tyrants. Indeed, this is not a video that is going to say that we should ignore pop culture, or that pop culture rather is not significant beyond its ability to be used as a tool by political leaders against us, not at all. But this is a video to hopefully make all of us reflect on how we view our culture, what a good culture is, and what the cultural conditions for a sound and just political order are. If we can think about those things, then perhaps the problems I'm going to lay out in this video will be more readily fixed, and not only that, we can address them without having to lose sleep at night. Before I begin, if you enjoy philosophical commentary, or rather political commentary, that has a philosophical bend to it, and if you want to help start a revolution of the mind where the principles of 1776 and good old Americanism are restored to the masses, then please be sure to like this video, subscribe to this video, and share this video as well, and be sure to leave a comment. It helps me a lot in the algorithm. So, this relationship between pop culture and politics is actually rather curious. And I think that in order to understand it first, we have to first understand what pop culture does to actual regular culture. Pop culture, and let me define what I mean by I say pop culture, because oftentimes it'll be missed. By pop culture, I don't just mean the kind of buzz created in society around video games, TV shows, celebrities, and movies. I mean the kind of artificial and curated culture that is seen in the entertainment world, and that artificial and curated culture being used as a lens into the society. You see, it's very easy to not understand this if you're not involved in any fan groups or any particular niches that follow these certain things. But it doesn't take very long to see the impact that reality TV has had on how Americans perceive society. Take the show Jerry Springer. A lot of people who've watched Jerry Springer would say, I cannot believe there are folks in American society who are like this. And this leads to a negative perception of our society. Or take any other reality TV show, whether it be The Real Housewives, whether it be all of these My 600-Pound Life, whatever. All of these shows create an idea of the culture that may not be correct, and if it is correct, ultimately whittles down what real culture is. Essentially, when entertainment becomes culture, you can't actually know what culture is. Pop culture, in this sense, takes the more humbler aspects of culture and appropriates them for mass commercial distribution rather than actually appealing to them and their true significance. This has both social and political consequences. The social consequences that this actually weakens the culture, gives people a wrong idea of what culture is, and encourages people to interact with society in a way that is erroneous. If you believe, for example, that American society is just a place where a bunch of people who are lazy and who are gluttonous reside, you will interact with the society in a different way than you would if you believe that American society was full of engineers and experts and astronauts. It's perception. No matter how much we like to admit it or not, our subconscious perception influences our behavior. And so if you have a culture of people that are not interacting with the society rationally, but are instead interacting with it emotionally or on the basis of prejudices that are not tested against reason, you have a culture of people who can't really truly understand what it means to be in a society and can't really appreciate culture. Now, on the political side, this then allows people in power to take these aspects of culture and take the spoils of these aspects of culture, the fame of celebrities or certain TV personalities, and then exploit them for political power. This is why, for example, you saw Oprah endorsing Barack Obama, and why many political observers believe Oprah's endorsement of Barack Obama actually tipped the scales for him in the Democratic primary against Hillary Clinton so much so that he won. It's not because Oprah has some genius political insight, and that'll get to my next point in a second. It's because Oprah, in this culture of curated entertainment, where people view the culture through this artificial lens, is a high status figure, and for that reason alone, her word carries more weight than Joe Blow on the street. This is a dangerous prospect because people who tend to be high status figures all travel in the same realm. They all travel in the same sphere. What did George Carlin say? It's a big club and you're not in it? Well, he was making a comedic point, but he's actually correct. And the same people that are in the entertainment world oftentimes have connections with people that are in the political world for various reasons, some nefarious and some not. So you already have at the very basis this problem of perception created by pop culture, which weakens political instincts, weakens our ability to reason, and gives us a false idea of what culture is, and therefore renders us vulnerable towards errors. But, of course, there's much more to the story than this. We should just understand that pop culture figures, as I mentioned before, don't have any unique political wisdom simply because they have status. Indeed, the idea that Oprah can just come ahead and endorse someone and that be a validator is actually quite odd. But if you understand how culture and entertainment and political order all work together to conspire to control us, it's not odd at all. You see, human beings need cultural symbols or some kind of higher order symbol or idea to order their thinking to, in order to aspire to greatness, in order to move forward in life in a manner. They need some kind of reference point. And if you think of the society we have, a lot of people will say that the idea of a role model consists of different figures in society, including entertainment or pop culture figures. Unfortunately, in our modern world, a lot of entertainers, singers, celebrities, TV personalities have become the cultural reference points that are meant to push us towards a higher place, but in all reality, given our deep trust in them, and given the various different motives of the entertainment industry and those in the industry, mostly self-aggrandizement, we are then also taken to a place where we are not benefited, but we are instead helping them live their ideal life, whereas our understanding does not grow. It's good to have a cultural figure that can push you to the highest version of yourself. It's not good to have cultural figures that are there simply because they happen to be popular. If you are popular, for popularity's sake, what can you offer my spirit? What can you offer my culture? All you can really say is that you managed to, by some rhetorical manipulation, some brilliant marketing strategy, or some other thing that is not really significant to the substance of the human being, you've managed to get people to like you, which is an achievement in itself. That's talent, but does that really push you to a higher place? I don't think so. But regardless of that, a lot of people in pop culture, celebrities, just aren't very smart. They are airheads, but their influence, due to this hijacking of cultural symbols, outpaces their cognitive ability and their understanding of politics. But for a lot of people who are similarly politically ignorant, they can therefore not have to be pushed to learn anything about politics, and instead take the validation of their idol, of their pop culture idol, as enough to make a political decision, and that is dangerous because an ignorant public cannot preserve a republic. An ignorant public cannot interact with politics fruitfully. An ignorant public can do nothing but cause more harm and chaos in society than an informed public can. But there's also another aspect of this. Oftentimes, government will take these different layers, the sort of cultural hijacking, the sort of ignorance of the public, and the sort of status seeking of the pop culture celebrities, and they will use it to manufacture consent. What do I mean? Well, the idea of manufacturing consent is very simple. It's when the government, the media, and other institutions work together to create a narrative that then influences how people think about certain events, and then thereby influencing that gets people to consent to things that in any other case would have been absolutely and utterly immoral. This is what happened with the Iraq War, where there were elements of the government trying to push Americans to believe that the anthrax attacks that happened around that same time, in the early 2000s, were actually coming from Iraq. Of course, that's not the case at all. There's a crazed man in America. This is what happened with the Gulf of Tonkin incident. This is what happened with so many different instances throughout American history, where the media quite literally worked hand in hand with government to present a certain view of the world that was not necessarily true. Well, if you have someone who trusts a celebrity, who trusts the entertainment industry or something like that, or whose cultural symbol rests in the celebrity, then you can more easily, on the basis of sheer emotion and affection and not reason, get someone to go along with something that in any other circumstance would be absolutely and fundamentally absurd. And celebrities are used all the time to do this. Think of the TikToker COVID-19 vaccination promotion program that was sent forth by the Biden administration that tried to get some of the biggest TikTokers to promote the Biden administration's medical agenda. Now, whether you agree with it or not, that's besides the point. The point is you had a bunch of uninformed kids who have a lot of following amongst people of their own age, pushing things they had no idea about and manufacturing consent towards a certain end. This is how pop culture and political authority merge together to be weaponized into a very dangerous extent. The moment a culture becomes rationally weak, becomes intellectually weak, is the moment it becomes manipulated more easily by nefarious political forces. But also, pop culture has another utility. It reinforces the ignorance of the masses by way of status. As I mentioned, if Oprah says something, or Celebrity X says something, people, by virtue of their trust and their status, are more likely and more willing to believe it. And so instead of actually having a culture of reason, where we are pushed beyond our imposed ignorance, what is enlightenment? Immanuel Kant said enlightenment is man moving beyond his own self-imposed ignorance. Well, not all ignorance is self-imposed, but in a sense he is correct, because a lot of us in our digital age, right now in our modern civilization, have gotten to a point where ignorance is absolutely a choice and not a necessity laid upon our existence, as it may have been even 60 years ago when you didn't have access to as many resources as you have right now. But this self-imposed ignorance is strengthened when you outsource your thinking to other people on the basis of their fame, status, or whatever. A thinking man will always think for himself. And if someone is more smarter than him or whatever, he will test his mind against the premises and conclusions of that person. And he will not just take their word for it because they have the appearance of being more dignified and more smart. But when the cult of celebrity comes in, the thinking man, if he has a strong affection for a particular celebrity, is therefore no longer a thinking man. He becomes a sheep, and his affection overtakes his ability to reason through conclusions, and that makes for a worse culture. This is what's going on here, my friends. This is the true culprit here. This is the true issue here, is that we have a weak culture in America because so many people, so many of the politically uninformed masses don't care about philosophy, don't care about history, don't care about politics or moral theory. They don't care about the things that are necessary. They don't care about ethics or sound ethics. They don't care about demanding more from their leaders beyond simply maybe a platitude here and there whenever a popular social media campaign crops up and they can put a black square on their Instagram profile to be down with the cause, or they can put a Palestinian flag in there, the social media profile to be down with the cause. They don't care. All people care about really is doing the bare minimum when it comes to this stuff to make themselves feel aggrandized. But they care more about what happened on The Real Housewives, or what happened on Oprah's show, or what happened on XYZ, what happened with their favorite TikToker, than they actually do the things going on in this country. And it's not because people are stupid, it's because people are distracted. So no, politics is not downstream of culture. Politics has been used as a tool to manipulate the culture in substantive ways for years. Let me give you a tangible example of this. Almost every major military and spy movie made out of Hollywood in the past 3 decades was first run through the Pentagon's liaison office in Hollywood. That's right. The United States Department of Defense has an office in Hollywood where they feed ideas to movie producers and where they literally manipulate scripts to reflect the American partisan narrative on world events and on the military. That is, the culture that is produced through those movies, because we understand that movies produce culture. The culture produced through those movies is being filtered and manufactured through a very limited lens. When you have these institutions that have seeped their tendrils into almost every aspect of private life, they can disrupt the norms of private life, and by doing that, twist the minds of people subconsciously to affirm narratives that benefit the people in power, whether they know it or whether they don't know it. This is how pop culture becomes a poison to sound political sensibilities. This is how pop culture becomes a poison to sound political thinking. This is how pop culture becomes a poison to a free and civil society, because it quite literally can be used as a tool to degrade and enslave the minds of men to concepts that people literally don't even understand they're being enslaved to. Politics is not downstream of culture. A strong culture, maybe. But culture becomes downstream of politics the moment these institutions are able to wage this epistemic intellectual warfare on you. And you're distracted by the lights, the glitz, the glamour, and all of this stuff that does nothing more than hijack your emotional brain. What is the solution? Well, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, the solution is to encourage a culture that is not just about aesthetics and appearances, but rather it's about substance. The solution is to encourage a culture where a life of the mind, where reading and learning and dialogue and critical discussion take precedence over the newest hot movie on Netflix, or take precedence over what Taylor Swift is doing. Right now, there's a big obsession over Taylor Swift. Oh my gosh. I never thought, I'm 23, and when I was 7, Taylor Swift was big back then. I never thought that it would end up being the point where there are people that are just obsessed and throwing themselves towards these wild speculations about Taylor Swift, when we have a government that's trying to ban menthol cigarettes because they want to manage your own personal health and then usurp your ability to control your own health. We have a government who is spying on you without getting a warrant. We have a government that is deflating the dollar in the name of protecting some foreign far-off land, to uphold a geopolitical order that has been unsound since the 1940s. We've got a government that's doing so many abusive things that is quite literally allowing a virtual, I won't say an invasion, but literally a virtual, unrestrained stream of people to come into our country. We don't know who they are. And you want to focus on Taylor Swift? This is how pop culture breaks the brain. Actually, this is actually a good example. The fact that a lot of people consider themselves part of the cultural vanguard to defend American culture are so obsessed over Taylor Swift just shows you that pop culture can literally take away your reason, your good sense, and put you in a place where you are perpetually distracted, even if you think you're not. We need to encourage a culture of the mind, a culture of substance. Culture, in the etymology of the word, is simply a series of practices and norms held by a group of people. Are our practices and norms going to be that of distraction and aesthetics and glitz and glamour and emptiness? Is it going to be that of hedonism? Or will it be that of aspiring to be the greatest souls we can be as human beings? And additionally, aspiring to think through conclusions, aspiring to channel our innovative and creative spirit and apply those to practical issues happening in our society today. I think if we're going to have a good society, a good culture, a strong culture, where it is not downstream of politics, but instead influences the political order to be healthy and moral, it must be the latter. But right now we have the former. I believe we can fight back against it. Do you? My friends, like this video, comment on this video, share this video, subscribe to this channel. Be sure also to donate to me if you want to help me keep my message getting out there. All that is in the comment section down below. My friends, study history, study philosophy, remain morally convicted, and please stay pensive. Bye, guys.